Hi, I'm Jason Blake, and welcome to this episode of PEI News Watch. I have Scott Borst here again, the expert when it comes to anything in our industry. Oh, did you see him cringe there?
Yeah.
No, he is the expert. But Scott, it's been a really busy year. We've talked about everything you've done. You've reviewed 4 RPs, and today we're going to talk a little bit about RP 1200, one of the big daddies of them all, right? One of the big ones. Why don't you talk a little bit? What is RP 1200?
So RP 1200, it's probably our most widely used RP outside of RP 100, which is the installation document. And it's really the testing document for our industry. So we have all these documents on how to install and maintain. This document is really the one to test and verify that all that equipment that's installed is working as intended.
Okay. And so when you say test, what kind of particular tests that we have right now for the 1200 that we keeps everything going? Just basic, just for the person who's getting new into this industry.
Really, all of the testing requirements have been indicated or developed by the Environmental Protection Agency, or US EPA.
Okay.
That's been handed down to the states as well. And then each state has specific requirements, but ultimately it's required under US EPA underground storage tank regulations to test and verify all of this equipment on a regular basis.
And so, I troll social media all the time, and I noticed our members were really excited about RP 1200, particularly because you guys added something to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about this addition to the RP 1200.
Yeah, so during the public comment period, PEI received nearly over 70 comments.
Okay. And you guys went through all of them?
The PEI committee addressed every single comment. Now, a lot of the comments were similar, as you indicated. One of them dealt with alternative testing methods for testing sumps.
That sounds serious.
Yeah. So this was a big issue.
Okay, layman's terms, what does that mean?
Yeah. So part of the EPA regulations are periodically all of the sumps, spill buckets and sumps need to be tested on a periodic basis.
Like periodic, like monthly?
Annually for spill buckets and probably like every 3 years for sumps.
Why are they different?
Because spill buckets are much more readily used. And again, it really comes down to the state. Some requirements are tribal nations that follow the federal regs are slightly different.
Okay.
So each state has its own, specifics as to how to test.
Okay.
But ultimately, the only way to do this previous to these alternative methods was to do something called hydrostatic testing. In other words, you basically...
Hydro is with water, right?
Hydro is with water. You got it. So the idea...
I'm learning things as we speak here.
So the intent is basically you have this big sump. It's just a container that's underneath to collect. Yep. The intent is to collect if there's ever a leak or a release to collect that liquid fuel. But in order to verify that they're working properly, you need to test them periodically.
Okay.
The initial method for this was to fill them with water, wait a period of time, and make sure that the water didn't leak out. It's real simple. That's called hydrostatic testing.
Okay.
It does also generate a great deal of water usage. Sometimes that water then becomes contaminated and things of that nature.
How much water?
There's a lot of water, like thousands of gallons.
Okay. And where do they get it?
Well, they get it, basically it comes in clean. So the tester probably either brings it with them in a tank, or they use the water on the site from a hose or garden hose or something like that. One of again, our industry is always looking at innovation and coming up with new ideas as a way to look at this. There are some other alternative methods that do not use water or a liquid type.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
What are they using?
So they use basically some sort of fog component.
Like a mist?
Yeah, like a mist. I'm not necessarily going to get into all the details necessarily, but basically, a fog is injected in the ground through a series of testing apparatuses. They look for this fog, and if the fog is detected, then basically you have a leak. If you really want to know much more information, it's probably
you got to read the recommended practice.
You probably want to talk to one of these companies that do that. But again, it's out there, and it does work. It has been approved by all the various regulatory agencies.
Okay.
And that's really why the RP 1200 committee needed to address it, because it is something that is approved at this point.
Okay.
But the RP 1200 was limiting in that aspect because it only required hydrostatic testing.
Okay.
So the committee really addressed these other alternative methods. And there's other ones outside of fog. Some's used cameras and things of that nature, and, real high-tech vacuum systems and things of that nature. So understanding that these new technologies are now available, the committee addressed that and put some consideration into the document. Again, you have to remember that a lot of these states utilize this document as their testing requirements. So if the RP 1200 is silent on it, a lot of these agencies were not allowing these other technologies. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about the states and what they require from our members. RP 1200. I know in the past, the kind of the practice of our industry and what our association did was, we had a test, RP 1200, and a lot of the states are adopting our tests and requiring them to take it. But we've added to that too, and I think it's important for those folks who have to take the test. We actually have an online course that they can take now to do that. So tell me a little bit about that and how that works.
Yeah, so a lot of the states, and I don't know how many exactly off the top of my head, but many states require, in order to do this testing and to be certified in the state, you need some sort of certification process. Several of the states have required the taking of the RP 1200 test and maintaining a certain score on that, and then you submit that with your application to the state, and then you are certified through that. Since the RP 1200 has been updated, we've looked to make sure that that test has also been updated.
Okay.
And as you indicated, we've also, in the PEI Education Center, we actually have a full RP 1200 course.
Yeah.
So if you're new to the industry, or you need a refresher, or maybe you moved from, you're an installation tech and now you're going to move to become a testing tech and you want to learn more about that, this online course is essential for that. You can go through it takes you through the entire RP 1200 document. And then it ends with an assessment. That test can then be used to obtain your certification from that state.
Scott, let's just be honest. Nobody likes taking tests, and so, I think the key really is, we wanted to make it as simple as possible for our members. And I think, putting this learning management system together where they could kind of take it in increments and kind of get ready for the test, I think it's going to really help out our members.
Right.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I know that we're working on evaluating the states and which ones are utilizing them, which ones will. I think that's important. And then offering some sort of discount for our members in the states once they launch this. I know we did that in Oklahoma, and that worked really well.
Yeah.
So I think members, more to come on this, but as more states begin to adopt RP 1200, you'll see more states in the future do that. So wanted to make you aware of some of the things we're doing to help you folks out. Scott, anything else you want to say about RP 1200 before we move on?
So it's available today. It's up on the PEI bookstore on our website, so gain access to that. And the other thing is we are also updating the course. So that PEI course that we talked about in the Education Center, that is being updated and should be available for the 24 version by December 15th.
Well, I'm sure that you folks probably have a lot of questions. We just hit the tip of what's happening with RP 1200. You can certainly reach out to Scott or reach out to your membership manager to get more information. We're always there to help you. I'm Jason Blake, and thanks so much for watching this episode of PI News Watch.